How about now? How about?
Hey, I can hear you now.
Don't ask me what I did because I don't know.
Hit buttons. That's the best tech support.
Yeah. Hey, as long as it works.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's awesome to connect with you.
Yeah, same here. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, me too. It's been way too long.
I hear time flies. It's crazy.
It does. It just goes way too fast. It's a blink of an eye.
I know whoever thought I'd be teaching for 40 years and now I'm done.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, some of my kids are like, "Your coach is still alive?" I'm like, "Yes, he's still
At least
alive."
one, couple of us.
Yeah, a couple of you guys are left. That's why I'm like, I got to get these guys on and talk about the inspiration that you guys had on my life. And I think it was fantastic to reconnect with you.
Yeah, same here. I talk to Coach Machado every once in a while.
Do you? Yeah, I keep trying to ping him on Facebook. He hasn't responded. I'm like, oh, he's probably not on. I figure maybe I'll try to get his number from you. I'm like, I saw him that little tribute that Scott Capizzo did for Vito, and I saw him on there. I'm like, oh, I'd love to have him on the show as well.
Oh yeah, he's still. Oh yeah, he'd love it. He's still the same.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, he's still
Yeah.
the same. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys inspired me so much. So, well, retired. That's awesome. What are you doing now?
Well, it took about 2 weeks before I started pulling my hair out, and I'm like, I can't be doing this. So the athletic director that was at the school that I retired from got a job up in Wilbraham, Mass, called Minnetonka High School. So he asked me to cover some games. So in the fall, I covered a lot of the athletic events. I'm doing it again in the winter. So I sub up there a couple days when I want, just to get to know the kids, because I missed that part of it.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I'm also working for a friend of my son's family owns a couple funeral homes. So I've been working there, working at doing things along that lines, which is
Yeah,
kind of like some things are good and some things are like they've
yeah.
been busy. It's been crazy how busy they've been.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like that's not a good thing, but
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
not a good thing.
so that's keeping me. I'm not coaching right now. Maybe I didn't coach this year or last. I only had been coaching football. Still not out of my system yet after watching a couple games, but I'm not sure about getting back into that grind of that 7 day a week grind right now.
Yeah, I bet that's hard. I mean, I don't think that ever really leaves your system because my stepson is playing and my son was in the marching band. So, and like those were some of the first high school games I kind of went back to. Gosh, man, it's a killer sitting in those stands. And my wife's always like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "There's a lot wrong with me." But man, it seems like yesterday. I don't know if it ever leaves. So
No, it doesn't. That feeling in your stomach once you go to a game and all of a sudden it's, I missed the pregame, that's for sure.
yeah, God, I miss those old days. We had so much fun.
They
That
don't let
was,
you hit anymore. You get like an hour a week of hitting, if that. It's like
oh my
changed
God. I
completely.
know there's so much changed that
Yeah.
it's just crazy. I'm like, I don't keep up with these new rules. And it's just even just out here, it's just so different than Nantucket. I mean, there's two high schools in my town here. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. Are they huge
Um,
both the big high schools?
both really big. And there's I mean, there's some stuff that, charter schools high schools that are, I think there's two or three of them that will feed to one of them for sports, but it's just crazy. It's just so different than Nantucket, and it's just so giant. It's so different.
It's the real world, Johnny. You're in the
Yeah, it's
real
the
world.
real world. Exactly. It's no longer the little rock. And gosh, sometimes I think they need that here. I'm like, that's one time I'm like, gosh, they just need that motivation. Sometimes I think they're trying to be too high level. I'm like, these are high school kids. They just need that passion. And that was one thing I think that was missing this year. They kind of had to change a head coach. And I'm like, there was one assistant coach that I think's really passionate. And I think, it's just different. I'm like, they're just kids. Teach them that
Right.
passion. So
It's tough to get it out of them. It's not the same kids. It's not the same kid anymore. There's a few, but they're firing in between that have that passion that really want to get after it. It's some of them I question why they play the game, because I mean, if you're just out there to wear the game shirt on a Friday, you're out here for all the wrong reasons, because
yeah,
it's not as fun as that Friday night when you're in the bleacher and you're seeing all the pageantry. It's a little
yeah,
different when you're between the lines and So that's changed. That type of kid, there's not many of those kids anymore. So that's a huge change.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like, I don't know what's going on really in the East Coast, but out here, it just seems like it's almost year round for a
Yeah.
particular sport, that the kids aren't playing other things, which I'm like, gosh, they're so young. I know they're specializing so much. I'm not sure, what a great thing that is.
Yeah, they have the 7-on-7s go on in the summer, and then the 7-on-7 in the winter. And it's like, you know what? If a kid wants to play another sport, it's a good thing that they should, because you're going to burn them out.
Yeah,
And,
that's what I've seen.
Yeah,
a
you
lot.
got to get a break. Kids need a break from playing that one sport. I let my son try as many sports, and then when it came time for him to make a decision what he wanted to do, I supported it. And he played football as a freshman. He was a good football player. He was a quarterback. But after that, he said, "Dad, I love the game. I don't like practices. That's not fair to my team." And then I said, "Well, it's your decision to make. I'm not going to force you to play that sport, because if you get hurt, you're going to put it on me. So you have to play it because you love it. I'm not going to force you to play something because I coached it, or, so it was what it was. It was enjoyable to watch him to do the things he could do, but he made a decision for himself. And,
Yeah, they've got to decide. That's
I talk to Freddie and D once in a while. Those guys, Freddie knows every play of, "Coach, why did you call this at third down and I'm there?" You guys, and then Matt Aloisi will chirp in and they pick on him. And then I got D. And I'll always throw D that Freddie said you weren't as tough as him. And I'll get those guys fired up. But Freddie must watch. His son's pretty good. He's a JV quarterback. And Freddie
Yeah.
sent me a couple of videos. He used to come to a couple of games here because I think his wife was from Simsbury, Connecticut.
Okay.
We used to play him. But oh yeah, those guys, Freddie, I think they know Freddie knows every play of every game, every down. And I'm there, Freddie, you got to find something else to do.
Yeah. I know. I was just texting with Mark Manchester and going, "Does anybody have the videos on digital? Does somebody get them in the cloud?" I'm like, "I don't even have VHS anymore. I couldn't even watch them."
I know, that'd be awesome if somebody had those. They're probably still in Vito's office unless somebody threw them out. Then you could get them digital. That'd be great.
I know. I'm like,
Freddie might have that stuff.
Yeah, I know somebody needs to share it in around any of the years. I think it would be great, but especially all us old timers.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome to see it. I keep wanting to show my stepson. I'm like, see, come on, here's a has-been, but it's I've got some, but I just got to send them to one of those places to see if I can get them, put to digital. And I don't know if I have all the games, but I was thinking of doing it. Mark said, check Chris Ryder, see if he's got them, but that would be great to get them on the cloud and share them with him. I mean, one thing leading up to this, I remember the game and they were still filming us and we were in our huddle up after and you guys were all talking. And it was real quiet. And it was the one that you announced that you were going to be a dad.
Oh, yeah, I remember
that. Freaking bonkers. I'm like, wonder if he has that one. Like, what a moment. Like, everybody was going crazy.
Oh, I remember that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, that's on one of I don't know what game that was, but I remember that. I'm like, gosh, I wonder if Coach has that. It was fantastic memories back then.
The three of us would be arrested now if we coached that same way.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, it's hard I'm old school still when I was coaching. I think the kids appreciated the discipline of when I became the head coach and what it took to change the programs that I got into. And they appreciate it more after the fact. Where, during while they're going through it, they're like, "What's this guy, man? He's on me all the time. Why is he, you have to be there at 2:03. What happens? There's consequences when I show up at 2:04. But now that they've been out of school for a while, that's what you hear from a lot of the kids I coach. It's not about whether we won or lost. It was about, "Coach, thank you for being demanding on me. Thank you for the expectations you put on us," because that's what carries me now. So that's what I appreciate the most.
Yeah, that's one thing I love hearing as a coach, and kids coming back and what you can instill in them. And it is hard. I mean, I tell our kids, gosh, old school. I'm like, my football coach used to hit me with a 2x4 or clipboard. Like, I'm like, actually, my head coach, Vito Capizzo, he had a great knee strike. You guys are in Krav Maga. I'm like, if you ducked his clipboard, he needs you in the groin.
Yeah. Yeah, he picked up that new move once he know
Yeah.
kids were starting to dodge the
Oh,
clipboard.
yeah, you dodge that clipboard, so you like pick one. I just let it start. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna duck underneath this clipboard. I'd rather get hit with the clipboard than that knee
Uh,
strike. He was, oh gosh, oh, I
if
miss
I
him.
ever did the pit now, I'd definitely be taken out of there in cuffs.
Oh
If I ever did
gosh,
a one, oh yeah, the pit. It's like, wait a minute here,
yeah, gosh.
crazy.
Yeah, you guys used to have Coach Moore come at us. I'm like, we used to have, I'm like, we had an assistant coach that used to get in like the pit with us. And then like I remember I'm like, I was telling my stepson, I'm like, look, Coach Thomas, he was super demanding. And sometimes I don't know what I did, but he's like, Johnny, you're in there with Coach Greg. And I'm like, what? If you don't beat him, you're out. Like we're start the second string. I'm like, what? And I'm
That's
like, I
like
have to
that's
go after like this huge guy. He was a grown man.
it was like going against the bear, putting him in there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, but
You can
it was
handle
fun.
Greg
It
Woods, you
pushed
can
you.
handle anybody in high school.
Yeah, it pushed you. That was the best, the best part. And sometimes things are too easy these days. I think, with everybody. It's actually I read a great book, The Comfort Crisis, and it's just everything's too soft and people are depressed and they're not doing anything that really challenges them. And that's always the fine line with me getting in kids, or you're like, gosh, they're not in sports for the most part because we don't have that many athletes anymore. We're finding the kids that decided football wasn't for me freshman year, in fifth grade. We're getting more of the kids that haven't found their fit. And so, I don't want to push them away too soon. It's finding that fine line of how can I push these kids and motivate them and keep them in the program so they're getting the benefit of what we're trying to teach them.
I mean, the thing is, the problem is a lack of discipline, especially in the schools. I mean, I know it starts at home, but it's that lack of discipline. Now, if I use a word in an interview, I feel they'd probably stop the interview and say, it's time, Coach Thomas, this really isn't for you. And, that's what they call old school. It's because that discipline and
Yeah.
the demands, but that's what's missing, because now you're asking kids to be disciplined in undisciplined society, and it's a problem. Look what's going on in society right now.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
That, nobody wants to be accountable, and it's crazy stuff out there. Oh, can't believe it. I take it back to the old school days any day.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh,
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the amount, just what I have to do, I go, man, I wish I could go back to Nantucket and free website and I could put a flyer on the bulletin board at the hub. And that's all I needed to do. I mean, I just spent the entire morning working, like doing web stuff. There's just so much involved now with all this social media, and gosh, they're a big part of the problem, but it's a kind of become a necessary evil of how to navigate it, and even with the kids of like, God, you guys got to navigate this world and balance it so it doesn't affect you terribly.
And with the football stuff now, everything's on huddle. So you get every game of every team. Guys don't even go scouting anymore. Everything's on there. I always, even when I was the head coach with huddle, I went scouting because it's not the same, not to see. But now you can get every game of every team that teams play, and then the spread offense, those games go forever. 150 plays plus. It's like, and the guys I coach with, I had coached them, and they're all about the spread offense too. And I mean, I like it, but I'm not a huge fan. I still want to be able to run the football, and because I wanted to, it's about toughness, because that's a sport that toughness is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that spread offense takes away from the kids being tough. And I'm there, even if we just run the football to start out in camp or something, say, listen, this is going to be a play we're going to hang our hat on. And a team comes in here, they're going to have to stop that. And if they can't, it's a long day. So I always started with, in our offense, it was the belly. It was kind of like ISO in the eye with coaches or the pro. And we're going to run this play until we run it right. And from that point on, we'll move on. But if team comes in, they're going to have to stop this play for them to be successful against us.
Yeah.
But this thing now is like Madden offense. These guys pull out stuff. It's literally like Madden. They tell me not one play feeds off the other. You know how we'd run cross buck and all. They said, oh, this is not a book offense. It's not a series. And I'm there. Okay, so if everyone's overplaying this, You can't run something backside. That's all I'm talking about.
I know, sometimes keep it simple. Like I see this, some of these kids and I'm like, God, they're so young. Like teach them just the core of the sport, trying to play it like a pro level. And I'm like, teach them the sport, teach them
Blocking and tackling. Teach
Yeah.
them to block and tackle. You're going to
Yeah.
be fine if you can block and tackle.
Yeah, the fundamentals of everything. That's, that's that old school, like getting reps. I'm like, gosh, remember, we used to run it until it was pitch dark and then we
Oh,
got
yeah.
the lights. Like keep running the play, run it again, run it again. And that was awesome. And I think, that's something I take to my students that, if you want to get to black belt, you're gonna have to do this thousands and thousands of times. So don't think you're awesome at it. It's gotta just be just so many reps. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true. So that's what's missing these days is not, we put where I was last, those guys put the whole offense in a couple of days and I'm there, whoa, what's the big rush here? Why can't we put the first thing you want to do? But the fundamentals is that's a lot of things now that they don't, they think it's there, but it's not, because the fundamentals of the kids, especially tackling, and I'm not a fan of the hawk tackling that everybody's been teaching ever since Seattle had that nasty defense. And now everybody, it's like that. It's like rugby. Your head's on the same side instead of cross. But I'm not a big fan of it. We had more injuries with hawk tackling than we did with teaching the old school tackling.
Yeah, it's sometimes the old way is the best way, and new things are great, but yeah, sometimes people just want to change just to change it. Like,
give me those Seattle players on defense, and maybe we'd like to
get that same group,
right? Give me those guys on defense, and maybe we could do hawk tack. Let's like the guy that coaches our offense now. We're going to run what Alabama runs. I go, wait a minute. We don't have those Alabama receivers. I mean, it's nice to play, looks good on paper, but we should run this on defense. This team has run it. They've been successful. I go, we don't have that defensive end.
Yeah.
You guys think the scheme is like, it's a great scheme, but do you have the kids that fit that personnel? That fit that type of scheme. And do we have that kid? They get away. They see things on TV and it's like, whoa, we got to run that play. That play is great. Okay, well, what defense was the other team in? And we don't have that kid.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. Yeah, it's like MMA. I'm like, yeah, that guy can do it. He's a professional fighter. Like that style might not fit you. You can't do that.
You must see what you're doing too, huh? It's got to be the discipline and the continual fundamentals and doing something over and over and over. And I'm assuming, I would assume toughness is a big thing too, but discipline has to be huge.
Yeah, the discipline of like getting in and just, I tell people, like we got a saying around here, suck less. Like we're all getting rusty when we're not doing anything. Like do something to better yourself as a human being, but you got to get in and train. And I think that's a big thing for some people. They just make excuses. And I'm like, oh, you're really good. And I tell people, I'm like, you don't even want to know how many hours I have hitting a heavy bag. I'm like, it's ridiculous. I could have gone to med school and more. The hours I put on just striking a bag. I'm like, you've got to put in the time. And it's not so easy as I got it, and that's, we put people through drills and, similar things as football. Like you got to test your skill. We'll test them and like, okay, no, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta do it more. You can't just, oh, I've got this down. I'm like,
that's the mentality though.
Yeah, you got to do it without thinking. It's like being on the field. You just got to execute the play. You can't be trying to think about it right then. You just got to execute and you got to do it over and over again. And that's just like self-defense. I mean, you just got to do these things over and over again and under a little bit of stress. And that's where like the pressure of like, hey, you're getting hit, you're getting whacked around. And, that's even for me, like teaching kids sometimes, like little stress drills, like sometimes the little ones, I'll tickle them and they get stressed out. Like, I'm going to tickle you. And all the boys are always like, I'm like, okay, we can do it two ways. I can tickle you, but if you guys are tough, I can slap you. I'll just slap you in the face, just like I'm in first grade. And all the boys like, yeah, I'm tough. And then they get up to the drill and they're like, I don't know if I want to do that, but we get in to it. But it's funny how just tickling them panics them under that stress of like getting attacked. And I'm like, hey, you can't panic. You're just panicking. It's the same thing, but it's a nicer way to learn. And we, bring them up as we go and try to add a little bit more to that. You've got to get hit. Even for the adults, I'm like, you got to start sparring like a year or two in. You're not really doing Krav Maga unless somebody actually punched you in the face. And how are you going to deal with that? Because everybody's got a plan. It's like some of those, that Blue Hills running back. Gosh, that kid was so big and he just couldn't take the punishment. He looked really big. We were scared of him.
Yeah, he looked the part. Absolutely.
But you couldn't get hit, and that's a big part of contact sports is you got to get hit and you got to be able to take the hit and get back up.
I tell people, I said, our teams in Nantucket weren't the biggest physical size, but let me tell you, they were going to hit you.
Yeah.
I said, those kids were going to hit you. And if you could take that punishment for 4 quarters, then you had a chance. But Nantucket kids weren't going to back down to anybody. I said, that's the one thing that, that I separated us from a lot of those programs is a lot of kids looked apart, but are you going to be able to take that punishment for 4 quarters that we were going to bring?
Yeah, it was definitely a brotherhood that everybody just stuck together, and we had such a connection with that small island. But yeah, we love to hit people, and if you hit one of our guys, we're coming after you.
It's Friday Night Lights. I thought you wanted something similar to Nantucket. I go, it's not as overboard, but Friday Night Lights is kind of like what football was like in Nantucket. 100 when I went there, started out 90 out of 100 boys played football. And as wearing that Nantucket shirt around town, you had a lot of leeway that other kids didn't have. So that was
we definitely did.
Vaughn and I used to watch this thing over the summer, watching guys grab a slice and try to start a little fight with all the off-islanders. We used to sit and watch and say, okay, wait till practice starts, and the first time somebody complains or acts soft, and we're going to bring up, oh, you're not messing around with the off-island boys down there grabbing a pizza. We used to sit way in the corner and watch.
Oh, yeah.
We used to watch all that action just to have fuel for the fire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember Coach Machado giving, why are you down there giving people a hard time? It was actually, just kind of funny how like all 3 of you, used to say different things to me that motivated me, or just, Coach Capizzo would always like, shut up, you philosopher, just because I knew how to play. It was like, shut up, Johnny, you're not a quarterback. And I'm like,
jackass.
Yeah.
You jackass.
It hit me. And oh gosh, I remember that it was at Southeastern, that I think it was my sophomore year. We got in that big brawl when they took down Billy Flaherty on that last
yeah.
And I was out, and I had like kind of undone my shoulder pads a little bit, taken off my helmet, and we got in that huge brawl. I just remember being out there, and I mean, nothing really, I think the whole, like the parents and everything, but there was that kind of second there. And I remember the next week, Coach Machado was saying, Johnny Hallett was out there. I don't see some of you other guys out there. We didn't want to get suspended. I think that was the bit. We didn't want to get suspended for the next game.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Coach Machado going, I'll take Johnny Hallett on my back. He's got my back. That's a guy I want to be with. And it's just kind of funny how, after doing the carpentry thing and finding coaching and running a Krav Maga and a fitness school full time, like how I, came that way, and, the things that you guys said, and not even thinking of it as a young kid of where your life's going to lead. It's kind of interesting how much, kind of little insight you guys all had on all of us.
The 3 of us were insane. I don't know how we didn't have like a calm guy on this. Usually you have a staff where you got a couple of loose nuts. It was 3 of us were all kind of loose nuts in different ways.
Yeah.
That was the crazy part.
Yeah.
And we got in a lot of battles amongst ourselves in that coach's office. I mean, yes.
Yeah. We didn't, sometimes we'd hear about him, or you guys, you could tell, you guys weren't talking to each other on the field.
Coach called me a jackass many a times. You see
yeah,
jackass?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. God, those times when, you 3 were unbelievable. I think you brought the best out of everybody. That was an awesome time. And I was telling some of my adult members, I think it was, and probably the teenagers, they're just so much fun. But your Brockton story, whenever you got mad at us, at least once a year, you would give us the Brockton story of you not playing. And I'd love to hear that again for you, because I think, you tell it best.
You got to refresh my memory. Which one is it?
Which one? The one that you didn't get to play, right? That you just walk on, you Nantucket kids just walk on.
Oh yeah, you don't have
you get the jersey.
Something kids try out. You guys
Yeah.
get handed a uniform. Oh
Yeah.
No, yeah. You don't know how lucky you are that you get a uniform because you want to play. And now, but I think the big thing about Nantucket that separated from the programs that I took over around here was that when guys put that shirt on, they knew they represented a lot of kids that went before them with blood, sweat, and tears, plus the town, because the community lived by football. I mean, remember, it was on radio, then they did the cable on Monday night. Football was like, that community was built on football. And I think there was a standard there that everybody had to try to uphold, because if you're the one that lets down, that standard, it's kind of like you're looked upon, wow, that you didn't accomplish. You don't know what it's. I remember being in the supermarket. We had that really good team with Brian Ryder. He only gave up like 2 touchdowns all year. Well, we were up big on the Vineyard, and Vineyard scored late in the game, and I'm in the supermarket with my parents, and somebody come up to me and said, "Coach Thomas, I don't think you understand the importance of this game. How did you let them score a touchdown? That's unacceptable. You better figure this out." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God." I guess it was like 30-something 12 or something. We whipped up on them. And I mean, now I get an understanding of how important this is to people.
Yeah, it was everything. I remember that was the first thing when I moved there in 5th grade. Do you play football? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a football player. I'm like, if all these guys, that's all that seems to be talking about is football. And
they
then
cut through the field with the boys club. Everybody had to cut through the high school field, and they all what do you want to be someday? I want to be a whaler.
Yeah.
And that was ingrained.
Yeah. And then we had our PE coach in elementary school, saying, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. It was just such a part of everything, like moving there and just, okay, it's football and going.
Now I know why Coach put me in the elementary school. Now,
you were
when you're there, you don't understand. Why, Coach, why am I down here? Why am I not? And then you figure out, okay, there's a method to his madness.
Yeah, definitely. Because
that transitional first grade, where kids weren't ready, so we must have had that team with Iggy, and then there was like 5 guys that were in transit on there. That transitional first grade is huge.
Yeah,
that's that extra year, and I was like, people don't realize you get 5 or 6 kids that were in the transitional first grade. Not a little year older. Makes a difference.
Yeah, Vito had a plan, that's for sure. That was that class, like how he predicted Super Bowl teams way in advance before we were even in high school. He was crazy.
Yeah, Vaughn said it's a different breed of cat over there now.
I bet.
You don't even recognize a lot of the names, and it's like, if you ever seen him on film, because when Ryder was the coach, I got their huddle. He let me on their huddle. And I'm there, whoa, where did these kids come from? Those aren't Nantucket kids. Very diverse.
Yeah.
Very diverse.
Yeah, it seems like it's changed a lot. We're going on 17 years here coming up that I haven't been back, and it just talk about time flies. I'm like, gosh, I'd really like to go back for a game. But I listened to Mark on the radio, and I'm like, there was a couple here and there kids that I'm like, and the rest I'm like, I'm sure grown just like everywhere else. And the turnover.
Yeah, it's a big change over there. And then one of their juniors just got killed on a motorcycle last week.
Oh yeah, I saw
guess
that.
on Milestone Road, he was passing and a truck was coming the other way and never seen him. Vaughn said that was a rough one.
Yeah, I bet.
He goes, he was on one of those little bikes that fly, whatever type of motorcycle type it was. And I guess he was flying. And he said that was that hit hard. So. But Saradellis is the new coach.
Is he?
Timmy Saradellis. He's the new head coach. And then I talked to Johnny Aloisi a lot because he's at Shrewsbury High School in Mass. He's the head coach there.
Yeah.
He came back to Nantucket for a couple of years. Then he moved back off.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. I remember when I caught that somewhere that he was coaching. So, I mean, good. I mean, that's another, how many do you know of rough, like how many coaches people that have gone through your programs and become coaches?
Yeah, I have a bunch even here. I have a few here. The guys at Enfield now, he was my quarterback. He ate a lot of clipboards too. He says, Coach, he was the best. I took over a program and hadn't won a game in 5 years. So that was a huge, and we started out with like 20 something kids. And his group ended up being a group that really changed the program, or saved it, I should say, because they had the year before they forfeited. That's how bad it was.
Oh,
They
wow.
got beat up so bad. And so he was the kid that pregame, and I'm pretty intense pregame. So I'm getting ready for pregame, and I'm there. Where the hell's James? And that's the quarter. And I made him a quarterback when he was a freshman. I coached freshman my first year over here. He was a defensive end and a center. And I'd watch him throw a football. And then finally, when I took over, I said, "You're not a defense." But he had a few screws loose as a quarterback. So prior to the game, I'm getting ready for, and where the hell is James? I go in the locker room. He's in the mirror fixing his hair to put a helmet on. I said, "Dude, I hope you go bald someday." Guess what? He's balder than an eagle. Every time you look in the mirror, you'll never forget Coach Thomas.
Yeah, you'll be mad every time.
Oh, I said, that's the best thing ever. I said, you know why Coach is bald? Right here, Coach Thomas he's the guy that was the protector on the punt. This is how crazy he was. So the ball gets punted. He had something happen to play before, and one of my coaches said, "Get James out." I go, "What's he going to do? He's the protector on the punt. He's okay. I'm telling you, got to get him out." I said, "He's fine." The ball's rolling, and he couldn't run to save his life. Out of nowhere, the receiver from Rockville, who wasn't even going to catch it, just gets laid out. Who was it? James.
That's awesome.
How do you even get down the field that fast? He was slower than molasses. I said, so he's the head coach now. So he had a few. He wasn't wrapped too tight.
Yeah.
So that group was exceptional. Because they were in a program that just got the snot kicked out of them week in and week out. We played against Dwight Freeney, who played for the Colts.
Okay.
He played for Bloomfield. Their fullback was a kid Pinnock that played for San Diego, South Carolina. And, so our schedule was tough, but those group of kids that they kind of saved the program because they were tough kids. And then I left there and went to South Windsor, who had 3 years without a win. So those are the programs that I kind of wanted to said, you know what? It's a challenge that was a challenge for me to build a program from scratch and try to use some of the things that Vito had taught me by giving me that opportunity, but being prepared and all the time and effort. Did he remember you guys go down during study hall and you better show up and watch film? He didn't want to hear you were doing homework. You better get down to his office and watch film.
We used to be there so late after practice, hanging out in there and just watching film. Yeah, and some Sanford and Son.
Oh yeah, he had to mix that in. Absolutely. Okay. Had to watch some Fred.
Yeah, gosh.
He had to have a little humor in there.
Yeah, goodness. He was funny. So we've got a quick word from our sponsors here. Thanks for listening. Hold tight. So yeah, Coach was a blast with that. Oh God, some of those lines come up with, and the pipe. I remember
when it rained, he turned it upside down.
Yep. Oh God,
crawling under the building and get his 2x4.
Yep. This stuff. I mean, even just telling my stepson, I'm like, you wouldn't, but like the stuff we did, we had a cemetery. I'm like, we had skull and crossbone would come out, and we'd spit in the cemetery graves of the week before everybody that we played before. And like,
remember Bristol Plymouth came and knocked them all down before the game.
Yeah.
Because that was the big matchup. Because I benched Freddie. I didn't start Freddie because he was in detention. Michael Holmes started and tackled a kid from behind that saved the touchdown, and we won that game because Iggy stole the ball in the bottom of the pile. Remember, we won 7-0.
Yeah, that was that was a crazy game. I
remember that game like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Games that and then we had to go against the monster. Great Low was I think they were in the finals this year.
Are they?
But that team was like, what are you doing in the Division 5?
I know, like they were
big, strong. Remember the tight end?
Yeah, those kids were big.
Yeah, they had like 3,000 kids in the school. Here we are with 200. Yeah, that's a fair matchup, but we had a chance. We had the ball
every time.
Yeah,
it's been years since I've watched it, but you're like, you think we're gonna win?
Yeah.
Like, like, man, you watch that game and you're like, we're coming back. We're in this game. We hung tight. So
Well,
I
that's
think,
what it was. On a third down play, I blitzed somebody and they hit the tight end over the middle. That's the one Freddie question says, Coach, what were you thinking about blitzing? And
yeah,
poor Tizzy was the one that had to go match up a lot against that tight end,
yeah,
who was about 6'4", 230, that kid.
yeah, he was big.
I mean, that running back was tough, but that kid must have carried 40 times in that power I they ran, but we beat
Yeah,
him up. I mean, he ran for some yards, but he also knew he was in a football game.
yeah. I don't think he had been hit that hard. He,
Yeah,
he came out of the game a couple times, but
right. Every time I see Greater Lowell, I get friggin' gets my blood pressure going.
yeah, God, that kid was fast on turf. That was the one thing.
Yeah.
That kid was fast on turf. When Chad Machete's like, man, that I can't catch him. You're like, crap.
I just,
If you
I
can't
just,
catch him, the rest of us can't.
I just hooked up with Chad on Facebook. He sent the thing about his son. His youngest son's a wrestler.
Oh
He
yeah, I
must
saw
have won
that
his
picture.
first match in the last. I go, oh, he's scrappy, just like his old man. Chad was
Yeah.
a scrappy little sucker.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, wrestling probably perfect for him.
Yeah, so I mean, he must be like his dad then. Hopefully, he's
Yep.
smart like his mother, but he's scrappy like you.
Yeah.
How's your family doing? How's your parents and Joe and Jen?
They're all good. Yeah, they're good. He's a cop up here, and
That's right.
so yeah,
You're the
God.
one that brought Joe up as a pup. You trained him. You had him
Yeah.
as a well-oiled machine. He was ready to tear anything he could apart. That was all you.
Yeah. God, that I remember coaching his boys club team. I'd like, oh, that was so much fun. And God, that kid, I remember I got in so much trouble because I asked him, he got hit. I don't know if it was a helmet to the shin, but he broke his leg. And I remember him being down there. He's my best player. And I was like, I'm like, are you hurt? Or are you injured? And he's like, I'm just hurt. He tried to get back up. And my mom gave me like, get back up. I'm like, I didn't. I asked him if he was okay. He said he was okay. He said he was good. That kid, God, tough and hanging out with all of it, D and the whole gang. Like he hung out with us all the time. And
yeah, crazy. He was ready to hit somebody getting out of bed. I think he wanted.
yeah, I remember when we showed up to his boys club games, the couple of times was good, man. He would just turn it up a notch because all of us were watching him. So yeah, goodness, yeah, I've got.
I keep trying to tell D the next time he drives a truck and must move stuff from out at the island to wherever. I said, then someday you got to pick me up. I'm ready to go on one of these road trips with you. For crying out loud, you tell me you're all over the place. I said, you let me know that I'm retired. I'm ready. The wife said, good, she'd get rid of me for a few days.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't talked to Dean forever. I haven't seen him on any social media or anything like that. I have to get his info from you. So that was good. Do you remember what you said to me? It was like outside of Helen's class. You're probably at the time, right? You guys weren't married. When I decided that I just didn't think college was the right route for me. And I saw this path of, doing construction like my dad. Mm-hmm. You remember what you said to me?
No.
Yeah.
I'm being honest. No,
you're an old guy now.
Once you started, I'm sure I go, okay. I'm not going to deny anything.
I remember you came up to me and you had heard, I'm like, and it was tough because it was so, everybody, you went to college or you're going to be sitting around Nantucket. And I really saw like, I could take over this construction business. And I wanted to, I'm like, I just, I don't know what it was of, I don't know if I'm going to be a football coach like Coach Thomas. I don't know, like seeing that path down the line. And when, I think I want to go in construction, really makes me happy. It's something actually I miss now. I'm like, man, building houses was a whole lot easier than trying to motivate people and getting.
And the houses don't talk back.
Yeah, they don't talk back.
That's like working funerals. Nobody talks back. Nobody gives me any grief.
Yeah, nobody gives you any grief. Nobody gives you dirty looks. And but I remembered it's motivated me. You told me that, kind of the ultimate, hey, you're going to turn into a Nantucket loser. Probably sitting up on Beer Drinkers Hill. Like, and I just remember, I'm like, I am not going to disappoint coach. I'm like, I know I'm going in a different path than that's typical, but I am not going to let him down. And that, even though you forgot it, I never did. It motivates me all the
No,
time.
that I remember it now, having that conversation with you.
Yeah, it was right
I gotta get
outside.
this kid off island. He can't be stuck over here.
Yeah. And God, that motivated me. And I remember the one time we had gone down to the Gillies family for, I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or whatever it was. We did that little road trip, you and I and Helen. And when I came back, I called you George, and
Oh
you
yeah,
killed me.
yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that.
And I'm like, oh, that just slipped out. Everybody's been calling me George for a week, and it slipped out. You're gonna kill me.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, some kid just called me. What did he call me? Hey, bro.
oh
My
boy.
little elementary kid.
Oh,
I'm like, first off, I'm Coach John, and that's even nice to
yeah.
like,
I
um,
get the hey, mister. No, I'm not mister. I have a name, kid. So you use my name. It's not a mister. That's
yeah,
not, or just hey, Thomas. No, that's not how it works.
yeah. I'm
I said,
like,
I don't play that game. I said,
well, at
so
least I'm
it's going to
coaching
be,
fun of it for the kids. I'm like, yeah, but yeah, hey, bro. I'm like,
hey, bro. That's beautiful.
yeah,
Bro.
I'm like, I am not your bro. I am your coach.
Oh,
You're not going to talk to me that way. Oh gosh, funny. So, you doing any? You're not doing any softball or anything like that when you moved
no,
up to Nantucket?
no, I'm just, right now, I'm just covering some. And then Leisha, my daughter, her baby, I think, is 19 months now. So if I can that's become my priority now, that if I can spend time with my granddaughter, that's important. Uh, During the last part of this summer, and my father had on dementia, and he passed away in July. So I spent a lot of time with him because I wanted to make sure that I'm going to spend as much time with him as I can, especially while he still knew me. So my last couple of weeks of school last year before I retired, I went out on FMLA. So that became my priorities, was my dad, and now making sure that I promised him would take care of my mother and my granddaughter. So, and my son just got married in October. Um, and my little one, Katie's 23. So she's back, she's at home, but she has a nice job. She's a child life specialist. So that's become what's important to me now after all the years of coaching with my own kids and how much stuff that I missed. Or the worst thing, picture this now, Helen.
Yep.
Helen. So she told me, today you got to pick the kids up from daycare. Don't forget. I have a meeting. She had some appointment. You got to pick them up. Make sure you're on time. Sure, don't worry about it. I'm down at practice, we're running plays, and I'm sure I'm grinding those poor kids. And all of a sudden I see grass flying coming down this hill. And who was it? Her. Did you forget something? I go, what are you talking about? The kids. What? And there's kids that I coach to this day still bring that up because they said they loved it. Seeing me getting ripped apart by Helen, just tearing me apart because it was an hour plus. She must have got a call from the daycare or whatever, wondering where the hell I was, and I'm still on the practice field.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was one of her moments. And here's the other one. I just had her ear operation, and I wasn't going to school, but I said, I'm going to practice. Okay, as long as you sit in the lounge chair. I said, all right, that's a deal. I'll go and sit in the lounge chair, but I'm going to be at practice. So practice gets going. I'm in the lounge chair. Things are getting a little, so I get up out of it. Who drives around the corner? Why, I'm out of the lounge chair, out on the field. You get in the car now in front of my whole team.
For the whole team.
And I'm there. You ever come to my practice again and embarrass me like that, I'm going to run a toss sweep to the sideline and make sure they take you out. Because if they don't, I'll make their life so miserable. So now the next day, I said, okay, I promise you, I get it. Because you're going to get in trouble. You won't teach, but you're going to practice. You can't be out of school, even though it's different schools. So the next day, any kid that was hurt, I put them at each corner. And then I had a kid in the tree. So if Helen came around, they gave me the signal to know to sit in the chair. That's how brave I was.
That's great.
Oh, it was great. There was kids in each corner and one up in the tree, and they had a signal to tell me when Helen, would you see the car?
You see that car coming. Oh.
Yeah. So I knew you'd enjoy those because you know her.
Oh gosh, yeah. God, she was tough. She was a great, it's
Yeah.
one class I wish I paid more attention to because I go to Mexico all the time now.
Wow. See that?
And I'm like, man, I should have paid more attention in Helen's class.
I'll have to make sure I tell her that.
Yeah, I think I've told you
Wednesday's
on
her
it's
meeting
probably
day and
been,
she'd be home. She'd love
yeah.
to know that. She would
Oh
love to
yeah.
been here, but today's their meeting day. And she's
Yeah.
at the middle school now, 8th grade Spanish. That's what she teaches.
Oh yeah.
She was
Yeah.
an assistant principal for like, was it 5 or 6 years? So
Wow.
imagine what she was like then at the school I was teaching.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I bet those
she did all
kids.
the discipline. And so I said, good luck. You don't have to worry about Mr. Thomas. You don't want to have to wait till you have to cross
Yeah.
paths with Mrs. Thomas.
Yeah. Look out.
So
Yeah.
now she's back doing 8th grade Spanish. And
That's
she
great.
seems to like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I really wish I paid more attention to her class. It's
she's
definitely,
no nonsense.
yeah.
She still is.
That's what, I think kids need that. It's back to that discipline and, people just need more of that in their life. And it's, God, sometimes they're just afraid of it, but
Yeah, they don't see it. Nobody sees that and until that changes, and this pat in the back stuff, or now everything's COVID's fault. No, it's not. The same knuckleheads I had before COVID were the same knuckleheads after COVID, and the good kids were still good kids. So don't
yeah,
blame it on COVID. A couple kids I'm assuming that effect. I'm not saying it didn't, but let's not that be the excuse for how many more years now to why these kids act the way they act.
yeah. I mean, gosh, my stepson does a program called 6-0 with this ex Bronco, Matt McChesney. You'd love him. He's
Really?
Yeah, really, he teaches the kid discipline, everything,
Oh,
watching films and really educating him about the games, but he flies off the handles. Like
really?
I think he just got fired from his son's like 10-year-old, like he was an assistant coach like with these 10-year-olds, and and I wish he took it off his social media. He went off on the parents. He
Really?
did this thing like, don't tell me about football, these moms, I'm sick of these people. I can't even do it. His rant was unbelievable, and I wish there was some great lines in it, and he took it off. I was playing it for a couple classes of mine. I'm like, look at this guy. And
Oh,
the kids don't, like, some of the kids, they don't know how to handle him because he gives them a hard time. I mean, he's got the nicknames. I mean, he's just like, I'm like, oh, this is just like my coaches. I mean, he pushes those kids, and if they're not there, oh, if you don't show up for your appointment with him, like he books the kids in and texts them, and are you going to be there? If they don't show up, man, they're in trouble. But
wow. We need
he,
more of those guys. The parents got to let those guys do their thing. That's the problem. It's
yeah,
okay.
like,
Your son or
let
daughter
them
will be
do it.
fine.
Some people are like, well, they're 10-year-olds. I'm like, well, maybe, but it's still great. I mean, that's what some of these kids do need. Like, I mean, he's definitely a better high school level coach than he
Yeah.
is with the younger kids. That, definitely you can yell at those guys, but some of those kids can't take it. I know, like he was giving my stepson a hard time about, because he takes Instagram videos of the kids. So, because he really touts himself as a recruiter.
Okay.
I'm gonna point you in the direction of guys I know out there. I don't want to ruin my reputation, but I'm gonna point you to coaches on the college level that you're gonna fit with. So he films them and he puts them on Instagram.
Wow.
And it's an involved program. It's pretty great.
I bet you he has a good reputation where if he puts his name on a kid, those
Yeah,
guys are going to say,
he's like, don't disappoint me. But I remember,
right.
like, I think he dropped a couple passes. He's a receiver and a D-back, and is that what you're doing? You good with that video? Yeah. And I think, like,
Wow.
do you want to do it again? And I think he went through the line of kids, and he's like, you gonna do it again, White? And he's, yeah, like, give it to me again. Like, he's definitely got that drive that you don't see in a lot of kids that, they go after it. And it's funny that way to watch these kids that have that old school, like, I don't mind, I'll push myself. It's even my daughter rides horses, which is totally outside my realm. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing there. She gets tossed off and gets back on, and I'm
Bounces
like,
right back up, huh?
okay, you're still right. My gosh, you want to get back on that horse, and that's a whole nother animal, so to speak, because
Oh, I guess so. They
that's
have the hardest part now for me. And when I used to talk to a college coach, because I thought certain kids had, you know what, these kids have what it takes. They work hard. if they have to sit for a year, they'll be fine. They're gonna, they're just that type of kid. But these days, I don't know. That kid that I used to think was like that, then they go to college and the next minute, one season, or they couldn't accept the fact they were sitting and then they finish. And I'm there like, when I call a coach, now when I call a coach, they're gonna look at me and go, wait a minute here. This is, you're already sold me on this kid. Then what's up with Coach Thomas? Must not be the honest guy, and he's sending me these kids. And that's what these kids don't understand. But look at the transfer portal now. You don't start, and all of a sudden you're going somewhere else. You're going somewhere else. It's like insane.
It blows me away. I keep telling my wife, that I'm like, this is crazy. If they're not starting and they recruit to another team, like the amount in just like in Douglas County, Colorado, there's so many high schools around us, and you get to play over here, transfer over here. It's crazy. I mean, it's
you got Coach Dion now.
Like, what's that?
At Colorado, you got Coach Prime. He told the whole team, go look somewhere else. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
His first meeting, he says, you're all free to go transfer. And every one of you should, because my son's going to be the starting quarterback here. He told the whole team he'll have transfers up. You watch how many kids transfer in. They don't even know where they're getting the money to pay his contract. That's at Colorado. I can't believe he went there, but
I know.
The whole team, you can transfer. If you were smart, you'd transfer.
You're smart. Oh, that's great. Yeah, some of these kids, they think they should play, or the parents think I mean, gosh, I wouldn't want to be a high school coach with these parents.
Yeah, the parents are ones. My kid's D1, my kid's I said, you know what? How about he goes to a school where he gets a good education and has a chance to play? Isn't that what's important? Because D1 isn't what you think. I said, if you think that he's a D1, then you better go take a look in the mirror, because no disrespect, but he's not a D1, a D2 player. How about go to a nice school where he has a chance to play? And don't get caught up in this, my kid's a D1 because somebody fed you all this baloney because you were paying him $100 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I say it, I mean, hey, it's America. I'm in business. I'm trying to teach kids Krav Maga and getting them in the door, and it's a living, but sports have become high school sports have become such a business now that, you got to be on the traveling team. You got to do this and you got to do this camp. If you don't do the camp with us, then you're probably not starting because you didn't do this camp. And you're like, and they got these parents thinking that they're going to be D1 and everything else. And you're like, goodness, they're just high school kids. Who knows what they're going to do when life gets a little tough and hard.
But they got to have some fun too. They got to let some of these parents need to back off, let the kid have some fun and find himself. I said, maybe you're living your life through him because whatever, but let the kid, he also needs to have some fun. Stop putting all that pressure on him. Like, if there's a school out there, if they'll find them. Put it this way, they'll find you. If you're good enough, they find you.
That's what I told my wife. I'm like, look, it's a decent program. They're going through a little hardship and changing coaches, but I'm like, if he's really good, they're going to find him.
Right. Like, especially with that huddle. Every college gets every high school of that huddle. And it's unbelievable now with the recruiting process with that huddle. Because the colleges they get every game of every team in the country. So, and I'm sure they have people that watch every single one of those videos. Trying to find that kid.
Yep. And then there's all those services out there, these kids get hit up with of like, we'll help you get recruited. Pay us. You're like, goodness, like what happened to the old days? I think those, the good players going to come out. I mean, they're going to get found. I mean, if you got talent, it's hard to hide that.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
If you're not on the field, unless you don't play, you do something, you're going to get noticed.
All right, Johnny.
All right. Actually, that's funny. When I pinged you on Facebook and I'm like, yep, that's definitely Coach Thomas, because there's very few people that call me Johnny and get away with it these days.
He was one of my students in East Windsor.
Oh, that's
awesome. He does like kind of like home improvement stuff. So he comes over and helps me out when I have something like this that hopefully he can figure it out.
Yeah.
So he's done me well. So, all right. Anything else?
Yeah. What motivated you to start coaching, and what kept you going through all those years?
I mean, first of all, I loved working with the kids. I think I was able to develop a positive rapport with them. Um, I hope that I was able to give them values that they could carry on as they move on in their own lives. Um, but that working with kids and trying to get kids to work together and seeing when that happened, that it was just something that kept those juices going inside my stomach. And I remember telling kids from Enfield, when we walk down this hill to the game, at some point, it's going to be the last time you walk down this hill. So cherish every moment because you never know when it's the last time that you actually make this walk. So it's being able to work with kids. It kept me young, keeps me young, to watch kids develop and have success. And that's not always judged by wins and losses. I was fortunate here. We won a state basketball championship. But I've had some teams with kids that worked and played as hard as you possibly could ask kids to play. And I've always been a guy about effort because I think that's what everybody can control. I felt I was fair. I was tough but fair. I think that might be the boss. Yeah, it is. So that's kind of what kept me going, and still, I think I still have that burning desire inside me to be able to take my experience and knowledge and hopefully have kids develop to become the best that they can, whether it's on or off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic.
Hon, you know this guy here?
Hey, Helen, how are you?
I'm good.
You look a whole lot better than Coach.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Where's Johnny? Starting that nonsense.
He's only on because I showed him how to get on.
Yeah. We had a little trouble.
I was bumming out. I said, Helen's not here. If I can't figure this out, I'm screwed.
Have to do it old school on the phone, try to figure out how to record it. Well, awesome. I know you got her back in the house. I want to thank you for being on and taking the time and sharing some old stories, and for really motivating me to, be a coach and kind of pass on those same things. I love working with the kids and even those adults. It's so different, the two kids and adults, but so many of the adults need it, and they need that reinforcing. And one of the things people tell me is the confidence level, like they feel so much more confident just as a human being. And I think that's the big thing as a coach, is empowering people and passing that on. And you gave me that spirit, and you, Vito and Machado, really instilled that stuff in, and the passion and what you guys brought out and wanting to share that has been a lifelong passion of mine now. So I wanted to thank you for everything you did for me.
I appreciate that. And I want to thank you for all the hard work that you put in to become the player that you became. And you wouldn't have done that without having the heart that you had, and that you were persistent about wanting to improve, and you put the work in to get to be where you got. So
yeah,
coaching guys like you, that's a pleasure. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's like my stepson. I'm like, look, you're not playing. You wanted to play more offense. I'm like, do you realize, do I look like a offensive lineman to you? I was like 20 pounds heavier, but still. And I'm like, look, I remember, I think it was it might have been Coach Moore, or maybe it was Coach Gavin or Tim Galvin that said, look at this kid. We had our shirts off in that like summer practice, or the first one on the field after beach practice. And look at this kid. Here's your quarterback. And I don't know who it was like, look around and look at the rest of them. Like, he's not. And we had so many, running backs and quarterbacks. Then I'm like, if you want to play, you're going to play. I was like, you can be third string, maybe second string quarterback, but do you want to get some size? I think that was like sophomore year, and you're going to play offensive and defensive line. And you're like, I just wanted to play because I loved it. And you want to be part of that team, and you can't always, play the spot that you want to play, wherever the coach tell you to play. Like, you don't always get the pick. So.
And our defense was fun to play in, because a lot of that blitzing and movement and slanting and all that stuff, where guys were able to have fun. And like I said, you guys got after it. And that was awesome to see kids play at the level that you guys played, and bought into all the nonsense that we brought.
I go back to that nonsense any day. That was great.
Well, thank you for this. And when I talk to Coach Machado, I'll let him know, and then I'll text you his number. I'll just say, hey,
Yeah.
is that right if Johnny, he'd like to be able to get together and set up something, because that would be great. He'd love it. I know he would love it. And I know
Yeah,
you
I'd
would
love to
enjoy
get
it
him
too.
on. So yeah, I'd appreciate you doing that. I'd love to.
I will. So you take care. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, Coach.
All right. Thank you, Johnny.
All right.
Take care.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Bye now.
All right. This has been the John Hallett podcast. Thanks again for listening. We really appreciate it. This episode has been brought to you by Rev Gear Sports. You can visit revgear.com online. All our listeners receive 10% off with the promo code at checkout, JH Podcast 10. So, and if you're in our area in Douglas County, just mention that you listen to the podcast with Coach Thomas, and what he called me is the code. So you're gonna have to listen to that. If you're in-house, we'll give you guys 15% off if you are our member here locally and you want to use that promo code for Rev Gear products. It'll be an extra 15% off versus online for all our listeners that are not here local. Want to appreciate that. All of our listeners can also get our gear at ClearSky-Online or Krav Maga-online.com with the same promo code as Rev Gear, JH Podcast 10, and receive 10% off your shopping cart there. Want to thank you guys all again for supporting the podcast and listening.